I've got friends who are mechanics, and when the Snap-on tool guy turns up in his van and goes, "Observe the shiny tools that I have for sale," they still get giddy. They still get discount. So the levers might look and feel a bit different. Inherently, they are doing a very similar job.
Hello and welcome to episode 6 of Marketers of the Universe. I am Rich Harper, Head of Digital Marketing at Brew, and you may have noticed something slightly different in today's recording. That's right, our usual host with the most, Hayden Woods-Williams, is unfortunately unable to join us today, so I'll be doing my best to hold the ship steady in his absence. It's December. I'm not sure we're famous enough just yet to call this a Christmas special, but I'm going to say it anyway. Welcome to the Marketers of the Universe Christmas special. Without further delay, let's jump straight into it. Topic 1 this month, an all-star cast, including our social media manager, Southie. We have our digital marketing intern, Freya. And from our paid team, we have our Italian stallion, Michele, and our resident traveller, Ross Stratton. Welcome to you all. Topic 1 this month is: what techniques can be employed to increase engagement and interest on social media? Probably something that a lot of people are interested in, so we'll jump straight into it. We'll start with Southie because he is our social media guru. Southie, what can you say? What techniques do you suggest people can employ to increase engagement?
This is more maybe not the most fun answer, but it's probably the kind of like the basic. It just kind of think about your content, how it's going to look first, because if you want to get a lot of engagement, you have to create like the scroll stopping moment. I think that's the basic of social media. Don't think if people are going to buy it, don't think they're going to download it or not, just think, will they at least like stop first? Because once you figure that out, how to make people stop, then we can start talking about, all right, let's use this hashtag, let's make the copy like this. But if it's not something that people are going to even stop while they're scrolling, then the engagement is not really there. But to just kind of answer that question, this is something that's like people kind of know, but people don't really do it. Especially for any like sort of content that you kind of have to like mention other people, mention other partners and all. It's always tag them. You increase the chances of how many people get to see it. I think if it's something like TikTok or like Instagram and all, now they even have like a collaborate function. So that way now your content, you can collaborate with them. And then now it's shown on both 2 profiles instead of just 1.
When it comes to grabbing someone's attention, consistent and very cohesive brand image on social media is very important. Hashtags and stuff like that can be great, but you need to make sure you keep them relevant and don't use too many. I would say don't really use over 5. If you use too many, they can dilute your message and eventually they'll trigger spam filters. And just monitor which ones seem to be working well. Also, picking your platform is essential. If you're a B2B company, LinkedIn is a really good place to be. But if you're B2C, maybe focus more on platforms such as Instagram and Facebook. I'm not saying that you can't use LinkedIn, but I think you definitely need to identify where your customer base is and spend the majority of your time there.
From a paid perspective, Michele, is there anything that you could add to that?
The hashtag is something that we tested. The issue with that is, yes, it will give you visibility on certain topics, but it will steal the customer journey from you. So you will attract the attention and then someone will follow the journey of the hashtag and you will lose the tracking on this person. So on the paid point of view, I understand in the organic, it works differently. One of the best examples that I've seen data-wise as a best practice for engagement is to put animals in it. Every time you put in your images a type of animals, I tested it in UK, 90% of the ads that you can see or the social post that contain dogs have the highest engagement you can imagine. It doesn't matter if you're selling protein, cars, life insurances, put a dog and you will reach your engagement.
Wow, that is a valuable tip there. So no matter the product, include a cute puppy in the imagery.
And you'll break the internet.
Funny you should say that. I think that I read an interesting stat once that more people leave money in their wills to animal charities than to any other charity. So I can understand why engagement will be much higher.
This is related to UK. If we want to expand and test different countries, we can try with different animals and see.
Well, that should be an A/B test then. Let's run dogs in Spain, but not in Italy, and see if there's an uplift in engagement. So talking about engagement there, how do we effectively measure engagement? Ross, is there anything you can add from like a tracking analysis point of view?
I'm going to come at this from a slightly different angle, having stolen a few pertinent points from my partner who does this full time. So I think the main KPI for her that she's measuring is watch time, because this is essentially what the algorithm is built around, especially for kind of TikTok and Instagram Reels. I think the most effective strategy is kind of having a hook within the first 5 seconds and then having an answer to that hook at the end of that. So people have to watch the entire video. Watch time increases, the more Instagram will then push out your content, leads to higher ad revenue. So I think it's all about making sure you've got that uplift in watch time with all these tactics. That's
quite an insight there. Your partner's an influencer, is that correct, Ross?
Yeah, well, we're not allowed to use that term. She's a food blogger.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's quite insightful though, because people that have kind of forged that path for themselves, I think businesses could learn quite a lot from. Is there any kind of techniques or tips that we could maybe take from your partner growing her own profile that the businesses could adopt?
A lot of it just revolves around consistency and having kind of that presence on Instagram every week. I've been told that if you don't post at a specific time in a regular schedule, then the algorithm will kind of dismiss you and show your content less. So
okay,
I think if you are kind of trying to raise engagement, just making sure you're consistent, not only with posts, but also kind of tone of voice and brand as well.
Okay. For this particular topic then, what's our key takeaways? Southie, what would be one key point that people can take away from this that they could implement now to increase engagement?
I think we've talked about consistency, we've talked about A/B testing and stuff on. So I think like the one key takeaway, I know like social media sounds like fun and all, but at the end of the day, you kind of have to be really consistent with it. Whatever that works, like how you keep replicating it, and the moment it doesn't work, test again. Because if you just rely on this random viral moment for like really good engagement, but if you can't maintain it, then it's kind of become pointless. So yeah, consistency is really, really important.
Consistency is key then. And one last point, Freya, from your perspective, what's the one key thing that businesses should be doing to stop the scroll?
I'm not really sure. I just agree with Southie. Consistency really is key. I think it's very easy to get caught up in wanting to post, what's trending, what's new, what's going on now. But there's no point in posting about the Susie store-bought pesto trend if you're running a tech B2B and not making it relevant to your company. A company that I think do it really well actually on TikTok is Zoopla. They seem to somehow make every trend relate to their company. They do it really effectively. So if you want inspiration, I definitely go have a look at Zoopla's TikTok.
Michele, from a paid perspective, what's one takeaway that you'd like to share?
On the paid point of view, you need to discuss with the client before you start your activity how they measure success, what the engagement will bring to the company. Having lots of people liking your post doesn't naturally mean that they are going to buy your product. So this is something that needs to be very clear at the beginning of your strategy, activity, campaign.
Right, let's move on to topic 2. This is a topic that I was due to be on the panel, so I feel quite strongly about this, but happy to be joined today by our Senior Email Marketing Manager, Mark Bundle, from our paid team, Paid Media Manager, Nashin Nasira, and joining us from our account management team, Kieran O'Neill. So thank you guys for joining us. We're going to be discussing the difference between B2B and B2C marketing. I'm going to chuck this in here, and I really don't want to chuck this in here because I hate this phrase. But should we be coining a new phrase, and I think this is already out there, of B to H, or business to human. It makes me feel a little bit sick saying that because I hate that term. But guys, what do you think? Is there a difference between B2B and B2C marketing? Mark?
Yeah, there definitely is. I think the problem is that's led to awful things like B2H is that people have forgotten the differences in the tooling, not in the who you're talking to. B2B is obviously a much drier subject generally, whereas B2C, you get to use all the exciting toys. Like on the email channel, you can use countdown time and scratch cards, all sorts of wonderful whizzy toys. I'm sorry, your latest ebook download probably isn't going to merit that kind of funky interaction. But at the end of the day, people are still people, whether they're sat at their work desk, whether they're at home or in an office, or they're sat scrolling their phone looking for the next thing to buy. The actual people you're messaging and trying to reach are still the same. It's just how you're doing that needs to vary.
Ultimately, it's understanding your audience. Nasha, at the end of the day, B2B or B2C, we're still targeting an individual. Should there be differences in the way we target them?
Like for me, regardless if you're marketing to a multi-million-dollar tech solution to a specific business unit, or even a beauty subscription box to a lifestyle beauty influencer, we as marketers need to create a demand for our products. The first thing is prospects must recognize first that there's a need for the product, because why would they buy something that they don't really need? Understand first what your target market values and what they consider compelling enough to exchange their money or time for. We definitely need to start asking ourselves, what will the solution or product do for the intended user? Or will it decrease corporate spending? Will it just simply save time and make things easier? Will it solve any of their pain points? There's more similarities than there are differences when it comes to marketing both. Coming from a B2B background, we tend to focus more on like logic and facts, speaking to percentages and outcomes to kind of develop a strong business case for brand engagement. Whereas B2C marketers need to invoke some kind of positive emotion, building on that promise of a more fulfilled life in exchange for brand engagement. So there is a slight difference there, but essentially it is the same, is to create that demand first.
Definitely, I agree. Kieran, you've worked in both B2B and B2C environments. What do you see the difference is, if any?
You're going to sound like a broken record because I'm going to agree with pretty much what the rest of the team said. My first gig was B2B and then turning that B2B into B2B2C, which is another one. We've got B2H now to deal with. In essence, you've got to understand the market that you're selling in. You have to be super knowledgeable, be an expert in knowing your customers' needs. The one thing that I saw online, I can't remember where it's from, but empathy creates authenticity. And I think that is a huge crossover. You have to have empathy for your business customers if you're B2B, but you have to have empathy for your consumers, your Joe Bloggs up the road or whoever. The main thing is that you can't fake any of this. Now, whether that is forging, long-lasting relationships and delivering solutions and breaking a challenge that businesses have, the whole thing is based around harnessing the knowledge and understanding of walking in your customer's shoes. Am I a fan of business to human as a term? Not really. It feels a bit strange, but there is merit to it because it's understanding that we are all human. We all have needs, and those needs might be from a consumer basis or from a business basis. And although the bells and whistles that we have with B2C marketing might not be the same as B2B marketing, I've got friends who are mechanics, and when the Snap-on tool guy turns up in his van and goes, "Observe the shiny tools that I have for sale," they still get giddy. They still get discount. So the levers might look and feel a bit different. Inherently, they are doing a very similar job.
We've talked about this on previous podcast episodes. One of the common themes here is whether you're B2B, whether you're B2C, it's about knowing your customer and knowing what those triggers are, and then taking your product or your service or your solution and making sure that you map it to those customer pain points and making sure that the promotion is hitting those right triggers. So you mentioned there about your mechanic friends and getting giddy about the new shiny tools. What can we learn from how general B2C campaigns are executed? And I'll come to you, Mark, first.
I think something that's probably consumer-led that we can definitely lean on in B2B is FOMO. That was definitely a consumer thing first, of scarcity of supply, things running out, you must buy this right now before Christmas, before we run out of stock, whatever. And it doesn't hurt to use that in B2B either. It could be that it's a don't miss out on these top tips for a listicle you've got going on, or it could be a make sure you're not missing out on extra revenue because your agile practice isn't as agile as it could be. I don't know. But FOMO is definitely something we can lean on. And as a complete aside, if we don't like B2H, I reckon we should pioneer B2P. At least it rhymes with B and C that way. Business to people.
B2P, yeah. As long as we don't get confused with BP. Nasha, what about yourself? You run paid campaigns for a lot of our B2B clients. Is there anything that we could be implementing from a B2C perspective that might help our B2B ad to perform better?
I feel like it all boils down to like positioning your brand as the knight in shining armor or like the superhero. Looking at B2C campaigns, brand trust and loyalty are driven by enough value and engagement. And this requires like consistent delivery of promises and also like exceptional services and experiences.
We do a lot in business land of lead generation, consumer land, do a lot of brand building. Is that something, Kieran, that you see that we could be doing better?
Yeah, I think we touched on this on a previous podcast as well, which is how humanizing sales processes, do they still work nowadays, and so on. Without going over previously stomped ground, I think whether you're buying on behalf of yourself or you're looking to buy on behalf of your own business or the business that you work for, I think the key thing is we want to be helped. The reason why we're interacting with that business is we're buying things because it serves purpose. The way in which those things can be sold, service or products, whether it's B2B or B2C, you want to sell it as providing help to that person rather than we're selling this to you. No matter whether you work in marketing or sales, people, the old saying, especially in Norfolk, people buy from people. That's why word of mouth is still popular. You're that kind of trusted advisor, you're that thought leader, and you're being helpful, you're adding value. But the main thing is that you're there at that moment, you're available.
Good insights there. So I think to wrap it up, summarize there, the actions that you can take away from that is know your customer, have some authenticity in your campaign messaging, and it just kind of establish that trust element. We don't like the phrase B to H, but think about how you can humanize that sales funnel. Wouldn't be a Christmas special if we didn't talk about Christmas adverts. I'm joined by Mark, Freya, and Ross, and we are each going to pick one of our favorite Christmas adverts, either of this year or of years gone past. And from one of those, we will give you one thing that you could take away and use in your own marketing. Ross, what is your favorite Christmas advert?
Well, I was going to steal Mark's from last week, which would have been the Sainsbury's football Christmas advert. But I actually am a big fan of one of the John Lewis ones. I don't know if you guys will recall this, Monty the Penguin. So I actually rewatched that earlier, and a few tears came to my eyes. I don't know if it's the music or the nostalgia of playing with penguin dolls on Christmas Day. But that one seems to really resonate with me. In terms of tips you can take away, I mean, it's fairly obvious for marketing around Christmas, but kind of tapping into that nostalgic mindset. Making sure you remind people of the magic of Christmas, which seems to be lost more and more each year as I age. So yeah, that's my biggest tip.
Freya, how about you? Past or present, what would you say is your favourite Christmas advert or Christmas campaign?
I've got two. So I'm going to say past. It's not very Christmassy, but the Budweiser Super Bowl advert, it with the puppy and the horses. Oh, literally my favorite. I actually do cry every time I watch it, so I will not be watching it again for Christmas. But oh my God, I have never drunk a Budweiser in my entire life, but it was the first advert I thought of when this topic came up. I love it so much. And I will probably never drink a Budweiser, but clearly they're doing something right because it stuck with me.
They used animals.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a puppy and horses. It's just the cutest animals. Like, they really hit the mark. And then my favorite one from this year, I think it's John Lewis, and it's the Perfect Christmas Tree advert. I don't know if anyone's seen it, but with the Venus flytrap. I don't know why, but I loved it so much. The best thing about it for me is that you can now buy the Venus flytrap as a toy, like a cuddly soft toy in Waitrose, which will probably be going on my stocking filler list. Yes, I am 22. Oh well.
Let's create a Christmas advert with some sort of mascot that we can turn into a teddy bear and then sell in the shops. My son, we were shopping in Aldi at the weekend and we had to buy the Willy Wonka. What do they call it?
Is it the carrot?
No, not the carrot, because they released the Willy Wonka Christmas advert this year. So they had a whole new range of characters, but we've now got, they called them Plumpa Lumpas. So they're like,
oh, yeah.
like little purple plums. So we had to buy 3 of those to hang on the Christmas tree.
I honestly, they're doing something great. The best way to make money is off Christmas adverts, clearly. Mark, the Sainsbury's one, I watched it. Funny, I don't know who the main character, famous guy is in it, so really missed the mark for me.
It's just a generational thing for you.
I don't think the Sainsbury's one has anyone famous in this year, does it?
I swear it does, yeah. Halfway through, after the Christmas tree bit. I might be wrong. I watched genuinely tons in research for this topic, so I could be wrong.
The Venus flytrap one's quite interesting, because I didn't think it was John Lewis's strongest campaign. What made it stick in your mind, Freya? Was it the mascot that you wanted, the teddy bear?
Potentially. I just thought it was really sweet, it was all about making new Christmas traditions and working with what you've got. And I feel like Christmas is a big time of like consumption and everybody needs new things. And here's this little boy and he's just got a little seed that he's grown and put all this effort in himself. And maybe it's not exactly what you wanted, but it's cool and it's quirky and it's his Christmas tree and nobody else has it,
Yeah.
And I can buy a stuffed toy version of it.
Buy a stuffed toy. It's a bit like Ross said, isn't it? It's like trying to tap into that feeling of Christmas, that Christmas spirit, I suppose.
Yeah, I read a statistic that this year, 34% of customers have been influenced by online adverts during the holiday season.
It's a good stat. Right, Mark, how about you? Favorite Christmas campaign?
First, I want to apologise to Rick Astley because apparently he's in the middle of that Sainsbury's advert and I completely forgot.
Oh, there you go. That's
the
person Freya didn't know.
Yeah. See, Freya was never going to give him up. And interestingly, I was reading sentiment analysis on the Christmas adverts this year, and John Lewis is actually performing really badly because people are used by it. So it's good to see it has at least one fan. For me, though, the best Christmas advert, and for the first time this year, it's not this year's advert, is Coca-Cola's Holidays Are Coming.
Yeah.
That used to be on 1st of December every year, and that's it. That was Christmas. And yeah, this year they've changed it. I mean, I think it's still being used online, which is nice to see. But it's Everyone Can Be a Santa is their new campaign this year, which I'm not so keen on, despite apparently doing quite well. But the key takeaway from it has got to be consistency and branding. I mean, the fact we have a red Santa is because of Coca-Cola's branding. Traditionally, he was green, but Coca-Cola positioned it and it stuck. And then that jingle, the holidays are coming, just has kind of become synonymous with Christmas for me.
And you touched on their one this year. I actually quite like the Everyone Can Be a Santa campaign. I don't know if it's because it's on every single bus stop down the main high street where I have to drive every day, but I quite like how they've tapped into the nice side of Christmas. Like, it's not necessarily just all about giving gifts. It's those kind things that you can do for people. And necessarily, you don't have to just be nice at Christmas. It can run all year round.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's a good advert. It's a really nice advert. And as I said, that sentiment analysis sort of said I think it was leading the polls at the time. Yeah. It's just, for me, it's just the disappointment of losing the old one. I miss that as opposed to I don't like the new one, I think.
Yeah, you want to see the lorry pull into town, don't you?
Yeah, the fact it used to tour the country and you could actually literally go and see the lorry, it shows just how iconic it was.
I'm going to chuck one out there that I did share this in the in our Slack channel yesterday. Chevrolet created an advert this year that really tapped into the heartstrings, and an elderly lady that's clearly suffering from dementia. Family will come around for Christmas. You know, they go and speak to their dad and they're like, how's mum? And he's like, some days are good, some days are bad. The bad days are really bad. She doesn't even know my name. She doesn't know who I am. And the granddaughter decides to take her nan out in a Chevrolet truck, the family Chevrolet truck, for a tour of different areas, like her old high school where she first met their granddad and stuff like that. And all of a sudden, memories start flooding back into grandma's mind. And she says, oh, take me back home. I want to speak to Ed, or whatever the granddad's name is. And she gets home and they have this like touch and embrace. They were telling a story and they'd done a lot of research into how the method that was employed in the ad of revisiting old places can actually help dementia sufferers resurface some of those memories. And the Chevrolet branding and the Chevrolet message was really secondary. It was the fact that they were driving in their truck is the only time you noticed that it was their advert. It wasn't all about a brand. It wasn't all about that, but there was a real message in there that rang true. And I imagine it does for a lot of people. Mark, one thing about Christmas adverts that we can take all year round.
Branding and consistency.
Freya, one thing.
I think authenticity is really important.
That seems to be key today. Ross, what about you? One thing.
I technically already did mine. If I do it again, it won't be as good. So
Topic 4. Today, the panel is Southie and our resident copywriter and word lyricist, Tom. Topic 4 today is on the growing importance of ephemeral content. I don't know how many times I'm going to have to say that in this topic, but let's start off. What is ephemeral content, Tom?
So ephemeral content is essentially content that disappears after a certain period of time, like Snapchat or Instagram Reels, not Reels, Instagram Stories. They are content that disappears after a set period of time.
Good explanation. So why is ephemeral content important, Southie?
I think it's just because the idea of that is just gonna be gone real quick. So if you have to be fast to see what is it, and sometimes it may include some special stuff like offers, like free trial or whatever. So just kind of make it like really limited. People do like it when certain things are a little bit more limited instead of a little bit too excessive. So I think that's all the hype about it, knowing that it's only going to be available for like a really short time.
We talked about it earlier on in the segment around social engagement. Is there anything we should be doing? Any creative ways marketers can make ephemeral content more engaging or memorable? Tom?
I think the way to sort of really manage ephemeral content is much more around being personal and personable. So the reason that the content is so popular is that young people are able to do it and not worry about perfection all the time, which has been an issue in social media. Previously, when Instagram didn't have stories, everybody was trying to capture the perfect life. And now you're in that era of just quickly capture something, it doesn't matter, it will disappear soon. So I think being able to tap into your brand's personality and present it as an authentic means of communicating with your audience is probably the best way to utilize it.
And is there any examples? I know I'm going to sound really old here, but my daughters do something. It's like you have to take a snap at the same time every day. I'm sure there's actual name for this.
I think it's called Be Real.
Yeah.
Are you thinking about Be Real? It's not the same time every day, but yeah.
Okay, that's I'm showing my age, Freya. But is Be Real? Is that an example of people adopting ways to create content that doesn't last? Freya, jump in.
Because I have Be Real. That's the only thing. Be Real is basically you can have up to 3 posts a day. But only if you post your first post within 2 minutes of getting the notification. Everybody all around the world, same time, will get a notification, and then everybody has 2 minutes to make their first post. And it's basically playing on the idea of being real, and you can't Photoshop or Facetune anything. It's just you in that moment with what you're doing. They don't have adverts or anything like that. It's literally just pictures that they've taken that day and their posts. I think it's a really good social media app for like, yeah, Gen Z, whatever, but I wouldn't use it from a business perspective because I don't really think there is any way to use it from a business perspective.
We talk about authenticity and stuff like that. So people are capturing their true selves. Is that something that businesses can also learn from? Not necessarily they're going to be partaking in the app, but is there something from that we can take forward?
Yeah, I think so. I think Be Real's definitely a lesson on authenticity and how like you don't have to be perfect to be on social media. Like everyone's human. You're going to make mistakes at some point or another. Like you've got to admit that and realize it and go with it. And I feel like Be Real encapsulates that really well.
Well, to derail slightly there, let's bring it back to the business challenge and ephemeral content. Southie, is there any examples of businesses that are utilizing ephemeral content well?
I can't really like name like a specific one, but just kind of based on like my experience before, done like campaigns with different companies. I think it's just mostly like knowing what you can do because it's a very short form kind of format of a content. Nobody posting like a really long video. I think you can't even, usually a couple seconds. Let's say if it's Instagram stories. So for example, before, like if we work with something like a beauty products or food or something, usually those are the kind of stuff that if you want to include a link for people to buy it right away or something like that, then people could do it, because it's kind of impulsive. Like, oh, that lipstick looks nice. I want to buy it while I saw this Instagram stories. But also if you like are more like companies that kind of sell, I don't know, like property, cars, or even like software and all. So you wouldn't like do it. Like, people don't just randomly decide in like 5 seconds if they want to like buy a car. At most you could do just kind of be authentic, just create some interest in the cars and all. Don't try so hard to be like test drive now or like book a property, like viewing now. Like, like if it's something that's going to take some time for people to decide on, just focus more on the authentic part. Don't try so hard to ask people to like buy or schedule anything right away.
So maybe not suitable for all types of businesses or industries, maybe works better for specific niches. But thinking about that, we were talking there, this kind of sales-led content. Is it a useful technique for, say, showcasing company culture or something like that, Tom?
Yeah, I would say that is probably your best use case for this kind of content, is to demonstrate culture and values. And again, it's something that doesn't last for very long as well. So if your marketing department wants to have some experimenting with different kinds of content, you can have a look at the engagement figures and know that you're not going to be dinged for it forever. It's not going to be existing on your feed forevermore.
Rounding up this section, there's one key takeaway. Tom, what's your key takeaway?
My key takeaway would be that this sort of ephemeral content is definitely here to stay. It would appear that especially Gen Z and millennials, they do prefer ephemeral kinds of content over your more traditional forever content. So do try and engage with them in some way.
And Southie, anything that you want to add to that?
Just quite simple. Just don't overthink it. It's very short. It's just going to be around 24 hours and it's gone. Don't overthink it.
And that's all we have time for today. Thank you so much for listening. We hope you found some useful snippets in today's episode and are able to go and put them into your own marketing strategies. Thank you for joining me today. Next month, hopefully, our fearless leader, Hayden, will be back to steady the ship after today's diversion. But thank you for listening. We love making this content. We love if you could recommend the show to at least one friend that you would think would also enjoy listening. Make sure to check out our past episodes, subscribe on whatever platform you use to listen to your podcasts, and we'll see you on the next one. I've been Rich, and these have been the Marketers of the Universe.